I want to talk about secret parties, high-profile politicians, and rumors of wild orgies. No. I'm not talking about the Epstein files that you've been getting all over your feed. Not that. Instead, I want to talk about the night reveals of Han Xizai and the espionage story behind a painting that was not to be just art. Wait. Are you saying that ancient Chinese art has the same drama as modern scandals? Oh my. Let's dive into the story behind the painting.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art routes and learn a lot from that.
Nowadays we have social media, we have paparazzi with cameras ready to capture that exposing shot. But in the 10th century was just a man with a brush. In the year of 960, the spy camera was a painter named Gu Hongzhong. He worked for the emperor, Li Yu, and his mission was to infiltrate private life of a man named Han Xizai. But this wasn't just celebrity gossip, this was high-stakes political survival. At the time, Han Xizai was a high-profile figure whom the emperor Li Yu wanted to appoint as prime minister. But there was a problem. The southern Tang dynasty was falling. To the north, the new Song dynasty was rising like a tidal wave and ready to conquer everything. Li Yu was the last ruler of this dynasty, of the Tang dynasty. He wanted to know if Han Xizai was a loyal genius that could save the kingdom, or if he was an hedonistic party animal who had given up. Li Yu was the last ruler of this dynasty, of the Tang dynasty. He was a bit paranoid, and he needed to be because the kingdom was falling apart. This is why the emperor Li Yu sends this painter spy to infiltrate the more intimate life of Han Xizai. And because of all this painting is not just a painting. There's a lot of details in it. There's more than meets the eye. It's not a common painting like that you put on a wall and you can see. It's a scroll painting, not meant to be seen by everyone, but to keep as a secret for only the emperor to see. But now we get to an interesting part, because there's more than meets the eye, and there's lie upon lies. It wasn't just the painter lying of just being a painter. Han Xizai was also aware of this, and he was playing his act. Probably not aware that the painter was a spy, but he was portraying through all the elite society. He was playing his act. Han Xizai wasn't just partying. He was a brilliant man from the north who knew that the southern Tang dynasty was doomed. It was perishing. He didn't want to be prime minister of a sinking ship, because if he took the job, it meant that the Song dynasty that was rising would see him as a threat, and that would end up getting him killed. But also, if he refused the Emperor Li Yu, he would be seen as a threat and be killed as well. Checking the hypothesis, he chose a third option. He opted by strategic debauchery. He threw these wild, multi-day orgies and parties to ruin his own reputation. He wanted the emperor to see the leaked photos, this painting, and think, oh, Han is just a drunk who likes music and girls and orgies. He's not a good political fit. That was the key thinking that he wanted to pass, that Han Xizai wanted to pass to the emperor. But not just the emperor, also probably for the Song dynasty. Because an important thing here to understand is that Han Xizai was a very intelligent, a very studious person that have been studying for all his life Confucius teachings and so on, and practices. So it was expected that he would behave at a certain level. But to save his life, he destroyed his own reputation. I mean, it is what it is. The funny thing here is the inception baiting that is happening here. The baiting bait. It's like the painter is trying to make espionage for the emperor, but also Han Xizai is making his act to avoid being hired and yeah, put in a particularly dangerous situation. This painting is essentially a 1,000-year-old fake social media profile. Han was performing for the spy, and the spy was recording for the emperor. Let's now dissect the painting. This painting is now located at the National Palace Museum in Beijing. but not in exhibition due to its fragile condition. Okay. Thus, there's a digital version there that people can see and interact. A better perspective of the size of this painting. This painting has 29 centimeters width and has around 336 centimeters length. Besides, there's an adaptation of this painting in cinema in 2006, made by Han Xizai, made this movie called The Banquet, inspired on this Han Xizai story and on this Gu Hongzhong painting. The painting rolls around 5 acts, and it's seen from right to left, not from left to right. It's not just a single picture, it's more like a narrative. So these scenes occurred in a sequence, and the painter was painting, okay, this is one part of the ceremony, this is another part, this has some details that happen here, this is the ending. The way it gets separated, these narratives, these scenes, are by furniture typical of that time, that makes like, okay, this is a room and a scene. It can be then the same room, but there's like furniture separating, and we can very easily, the viewer can very easily understand it. So the first scene that we have is the pipa concert. The night begins on the far right. Han Xizai is sitting on a couch with guests, listening to a woman play the pipa. It looks like a standard high society gathering, but if you look at Han, he's upright, dignified, and totally in control. This is the public face. Han Xizai is very easily identified by the prominent red robe. Sitting next to Han Xizai is actually a specific high-ranking official, Lang Han, the scholar of the top degree. Notice that the large screens behind them in the 10th century, these weren't just for privacy. They were also status symbols, decorated symbols, with landscapes, paintings, signaling the intellectual level of the guests. In the second scene, we can see, as we move left and things get more informal, and as we get more into the night, a dancer appears, and Han Xizai does something shocking for a man of his rank. He takes off his outer robe and personally kind of DJs the scene. He goes to the drum and starts playing the drum. This was deliberately done to show the emperor he wasn't fit for a serious job. Also, it's interesting to notice that Han Xizai's choice to beat the drum in his blue inner robes after shedding his formal black official gown was a huge sign of disrespect to his rank. In terms of the guests, there's a man clapping along, and that is Li Jianming, the deputy head of the Imperial Music Academy. In the third scene, we see the intermission. The party pauses. We see Han surrounded by 4 women, washing his hands in a basin. Han looks like he's tired of the act. Also, you can look for the 12 flickering candles. These are a crucial detail from Gu Hongzhong to prove that the emperor that the party lasted deep into the night, evidence of the extravagant waste and late night plotting. Then we go into the scene 4, the flute concert, and the revelry peaks. Han is sitting in a chair. His robes are wide open, fanning himself, while 5 females musicians play flutes. There's a lingering late night vibe. This is exactly the kind of excess the emperor's spy were looking for. In terms of his posture, it's possible to see that Han Xizai is sitting cross-legged with his robes loosely draped. In the strict Confucian society of the time, sitting this way in the presence of others was a massive rebellion against the good manners. It's the 10th century version of manspreading at a formal state dinner. Finally, on the far left, the sun is coming up, the guests are whispering and leaving, and there's a detail. On the far left of the scroll, as the party is supposedly ending, a woman stands behind the decorative screen. She's peeking out and waving her hand towards the guest or towards Han Xizai. And this detail kind of suggests that the party isn't actually over. By waving from behind the screen, she is signaling for people to come over to the inner private chambers. The 10th century court etiquette women, especially entertainers and concubines, weren't supposed to be luring guests behind the screens in such a visible way. For the emperor, reading this report, this was the evidence of the wild orgy rumors. It implies that while the music had stopped in the main room, the real revelry was moving to a place where the painter spy, Gu Hongzhong, supposedly couldn't follow. But take a look at Han Xizai. He stands alone, holding a drumstick, looking away into the empty space. He successfully convinced the world that he's an hedonistic, and he saved his life, but he lost all his status. The party is over, and the kingdom is still falling. Now, a curious fun fact is the story behind the Emperor Li Yu. Li Yu was not a very good emperor, but he was one of the greatest art patrons from China. He created the first Academy of Arts in China. He was also a very proficient poet. He cared a lot about art, about music and paintings and so on. But as a king, as an emperor, he was a disaster. He was very undecisive, overly cautious, and watched his empire crumble while he focused on the aesthetics. In terms of poetry, Li Yu is still considered today one of China's greatest poets. He specialized in the style of poetry written to be sung. And after his kingdom was finally swallowed by the Song dynasty in 975, his poems changed from pretty songs to haunting, bone-chilling laments about his lost home. One of his most famous lines is, "How much sorrow can one man bear? It is like a river of spring water flowing to the east." Unfortunately, his talent was also his downfall. The new Song emperor read Li Yu's poems and realized that people still loved their whole king's heart. So it was very dangerous to be left alive. Legend says that on his 42nd birthday, Song emperor sent him a gift, a jug of poisoned wine. Li Yu died that night, and the last king of the Southern Tang was executed. Another important detail about this painting is that the painting that we see today is considered not the official. It's said that the original painting of Gu Hongzhong was vanished centuries ago. The version we have today, housed in the Palace Museum in Beijing, is a Song dynasty replica from the 12th century. Think about it. Song dynasty, the very people who destroyed Li Yu's kingdom, were so impressed by the art of their enemies that they carefully repainted to preserve it from history. We are looking at a copy of a performance, a fake party intended for a paranoid king, and yet it remains one of the most honest portrayals of human survival ever put to silk. So, the Night Revels of Han Xizai teaches us that in the world of power, nothing is what it seemed. And Han Xizai used the party as a shield, and Li Yu used the painting as a lens. If you enjoyed this first episode, Story Behind a Painting, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe our channel, and click the bell sign, so it helps our channel grow and it keeps you tuned to the latest videos that we publish here. Let me know in the comments, and I'm Daniel from Muzea, and hope to see you on the next one.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art routes and learn a lot from that.